Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Stephanie.
I am Tom, and today, again, we're going to continue exploring New Zealand. Remember last time we were introducing you to this magical wonderland down in the southern hemisphere. We've got majestic peaks. We've got the wonderful Milford Sound, which is a great-looking fjord. And we've also got all sorts of other kinds of mountains and wildlife, dolphins, penguins, and stuff like that. And also we're talking about glaciers and fertile green valleys, rugged cliffs, sandy beaches, miles and miles of... I just can't go on anymore. There's just so much there to see and do.
Yeah, it sounds gorgeous, doesn't it? We might need to plan our next vacation to New Zealand. Today we're going to focus in on some of the food that they eat, which is always my favorite part of these travel adventures. I want to learn more about their food and what they eat. And we're going to talk about a really cool place you can go visit, especially if you're a fan of the Hobbit movies or even Lord of the Rings. So stay tuned. We're going to read through our article first, and then we'll be back to break it apart, break it down, talk about it. The tiny North Island town of Mata Mata might seem like a typical farming community at first glance, but upon closer inspection, you'll find something rather peculiar. That's because you've stepped onto the Hobbiton movie set, where the adventures of Bilbo and Frodo Baggins began in The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings films. By the time you explore all 37 Hobbit holes, you'll be famished, eagerly anticipating a hearty meal at Hobbiton's Green Dragon Inn. Next, check out Lake Taupo, where you can hike the stunning Tongariro Alpine Crossing or sail past 10-meter-high Maori rock carvings, only accessible by water. If you're looking for snow-capped mountains and the azure waters of glacier-fed lakes, the South Island is a place to be. Several lakes lie in the valleys of Mount Cook, New Zealand's highest mountain. You can take in the imposing peak's crystal-clear reflection in Lake Tekapo while soaking in a natural geothermal pool. Culinary delights are plentiful in New Zealand. The Maori use a 2,000-year-old cooking technique called hangi to steam or smoke various meats and root vegetables while they're in an earth oven beneath the ground. The process takes several hours, but it's well worth the wait. Furthermore, no trip to New Zealand would be complete without a meal of roast lamb and kumara, or sweet potato, topped off with pavlova, a meringue-based dessert crowned with fresh fruit or berries. Finally, with some of the world's best wines at your fingertips, be sure to indulge in a glass or even two. With all this and more to see and do, start planning the trip of a lifetime. There's no better time to take a New Zealand road trip than today.
Okay, we're going to continue exploring New Zealand in today's program. Now, the first paragraph in today's lesson starts by saying, the tiny North Island town of Mata Mata might seem like a typical farming community at first glance. Glance here just refers to a short look at something. Maybe you did not have time to concentrate on what it was. Maybe you caught a glance of someone in the crowd. That person looked familiar, but you weren't quite sure who they were, but then they disappeared only a second or two later. Boy, I thought I know that person, but they're gone now. I just only had a quick glance of them. So at first glance, you could also say at first sight. When you first look at something, you might think, this just looks like a little farming town. Just like if you go down to some small little village in Yunlin or Zhanghua, this looks like a little farming town. But I guess when we see this at first glance, it kind of means, I guess there might be something else there other than just some country farmers.
Right, but as we go on in the sentence, it says, but upon closer inspection, you'll find something rather peculiar. If you inspect something, you look at it very carefully. Some people, they have jobs, and their job is to inspect certain, I don't know, maybe they're inspecting the gas tanks in apartment buildings. I just had a gas man come over, and he was inspecting my gas tank to see if it was okay, if it was safe. So they look at something very closely. They usually are assessing the condition of something to see if it has any flaws or any problems. But here we're looking very closely. And if you look closely or you inspect it, you might find something rather peculiar. Peculiar means strange, odd, a little weird. You can also call somebody peculiar. Yeah, he's a little peculiar. Typically, we use weird, but if you want to, broaden your vocabulary, which is what we want to do, try using peculiar once in a while.
Yep, kind of a little unusual, kind of strange, but not with a negative connotation. He's got a peculiar accent. Where is he from? Oh, actually, he's from the north of England. That's why his accent is a little peculiar, a little unusual. Well, again, if you're into something peculiar or interesting, you've stepped onto the Hobbiton movie set, where the adventures of Bilbo and Frodo Baggins, or Boggins, began in The Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings films. If you're a big fan of the writings of, what's his name? J.R. Tolkien?
Tolkien, yeah.
Tolkien. These are his fantasy books, The Hobbit, and, of course, The Lord of the Rings. And so, yes, you could check this out because that's where they filmed these things, and a lot of people are into this sort of thing.
Now, by the time you explore all 37 Hobbit holes, if you remember the Hobbits, the Hobbit people are very small. They're very, very tiny people with big feet.
Furry feet, too.
Big, hairy feet, I know. By the time you finish exploring all of those Hobbit holes, you're going to be famished. Famished is a word that means starving. You're so hungry. You can't stand it. So then you'll be eagerly anticipating a hearty meal at the Hobbiton's Green Dragon Inn, which is a restaurant there when you go on these tours, if you go on the movie set tour, which would be fun. If you anticipate something, guys, it means you're looking forward to something. We typically anticipate holidays because we all want vacations.
So here, you might be eagerly anticipating a hearty meal, and maybe this Green Dragon Inn is something that appears in these books or movies. I'm not sure. I'm not an expert at this. As I said before, I kind of lost interest in this particular series of books and movies a long time ago, although some people like this.
Oh, they're very popular.
I have to recognize that. But in any case, yes, you might have that hearty meal. It will fill you up. And next, you can check out Lake Taupo, where you can hike the stunning Tongariro Alpine Crossing, or sail past 10-meter-high Maori rock carvings only accessible by water. So I guess this is kind of in the same area. You can go to the Hobbiton movie set, and then once you're done with that, once you've had a nice hearty meal, you can go outside and do some hiking, which means you just kind of walk along mountain trails, carrying a backpack or something like that, and a walking stick or whatever. And you're going to see this alpine crossing. Maybe that's some kind of pass or something in the mountains. Alpine means it refers to the mountains. And so it's an alpine crossing, and it is stunning. Stunning, of course, is breathtaking. It's really amazing. You want to stop and take a picture of it and keep on looking for a very, very long time.
Yeah, but these Maori rock carvings are not easy to see, and they're only accessible by water. If something's accessible, it means you can get to it. So unless you're in a boat, you're not going to see these beautiful rock carvings that the Maori people did. They're 10-meter high. Woo, very tall. So I'd like to see that. Accessible. Sometimes we'll use this word to talk about the internet. The internet's not accessible in this area of the country, or it's not accessible high up on a mountaintop. But here it says you can see them, but you only see them if you go by boat.
Right, so I guess that protects them then, so people can't go over there and deface them or damage them as people seem to be doing these days.
Yeah, they are. A lot of people are damaging beautiful scenic areas.
Yeah, they want to get in there and take a selfie, okay? And sometimes they try to, keep people out, but they go in anyway. I came all this way. I'm not going to pass up this opportunity to get a selfie. Yeah. All my friends are going to get selfies here, so I got to have one too. So in any case here, in this case, it's good because the carvings are accessible only by water. You can only see them if you're in a boat. Now, if you're looking for snow-capped mountains and the azure waters of glacier-fed lakes, well, the South Island is the place to be. Okay, so if you're looking for this sort of thing, and probably if you're from Taiwan, you don't get much of a chance to see snow-capped mountains. Yeah, Yushan and Hehuanshan are snow-capped kind of a little bit during the winter sometimes, but hey, these are really snow-capped mountains with snow in large areas, and they are snow-capped all year round. Also, you can see these azure waters. Azure here is a word for blue. It usually describes blue skies, the blue you see when you look up on a clear day. And sometimes to see waters or bodies of water that are that color is pretty rare. These lakes are glacier-fed. A glacier, of course, is a large block of ice on the land. You've got glaciers in Alaska, and you've also got them in New Zealand. And some of the snow melts and the water goes down into these lakes. And that, of course, means the water in those lakes are very special. Or is very special, so they're going to have this azure color to them.
Beautiful, yeah. So this is the South Island we're talking about right now. Several lakes lie in the valleys of Mount Cook. Mount Cook is very famous for being New Zealand's tallest mountain or highest mountain. You can use either tall or high there. You can take in the imposing peak's crystal clear reflection in Lake Tekapo. If you take something in, you're looking at it with your eyes and you're kind of just experiencing it. We'll often use it to talk about going to see a movie. Hey, let's take in a movie this weekend. So taking in, just enjoying it, especially visually, guys, taking in something. Imposing means very high. It's almost kind of intimidating. It's so big. If someone has imposing height, they're very tall. So it can kind of make you feel a little small.
Indeed. So you can see that imposing mountain and its crystal clear reflection in this lake. And, of course, you could soak in a geothermal pool. To soak means you just kind of sit in water for a long time. Yeah. Sometimes it helps to wash dirty dishes by soaking them in water overnight or something like that. Geothermal means that it comes from under the ground because of activity down there, volcanic activity. Like here in Taiwan, of course, you've got lots of geothermal springs. Basically, this is just saying that you're soaking in a hot spring. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah, this is just a more scientific way of putting it, but that's a hot spring. Right now, guys, we're going to listen to our Chinese teacher, and then we'll be back.
Hello everyone, my name is Tina. 我们继续来看看纽西兰的美景。在今天的第一个句子提到 The tiny North Island town of Matamata might seem like a typical farming community at first glance. But upon closer inspection, you'll find something rather peculiar. 今天要介绍的呢，首先是位于北岛的 Matamata 小镇。也许看起来是非常的 typical， 很普通的一个呢农耕的社区。At first glance， 原来 glance 就有乍看一瞥的意思，你可能第一眼看到它，你会觉得很普通平常。举例来说 It seemed easy at first glance 指的就是第一眼看起来很简单容易。But upon closer inspection, upon 后面再加上名词，有意怎么样就怎么样。如果呢，你就更进一步的观察检视它，你就会发现相当特别的一些事物。Peculiar 这里用在形容词，解释成为奇特的意思。原来这个小镇啊，就是用来拍哈比人跟魔戒系列的电影。 一样，在第一段中间，我们看到他写的句子 By the time you explore all 37 hobbit holes, you'll be famished, eagerly anticipating a hearty meal at Hobbiton's Green Dragon Inn. 又出现了 by the time， 我们昨天也看过，指的呢就是到了什么什么的时候。等到你 explore 探索完所有37个哈比洞之后，你就会觉得非常的 famished 这里当作形容词，解释成为饥肠辘辘的意思，而同时你是非常期待，我们用 anticipating 期待呢可以吃到一顿丰富的餐点。第二段第一个句子提到 If you are looking for snow-capped mountains and the azure waters of glacier-fed lakes, the South Island is the place to be. 介绍完北岛，我们要来看看南岛。南岛可以看到什么呢？可以看得到是 snow-capped mountains， 也就是呢被雪给覆盖的山顶。Cap 本来呢是山顶的意思，戴上帽子，整个山都像是被雪所覆盖，以及 azure waters of glacier-fed lakes， 还有呢由冰河汇集的这种蔚蓝色的湖水，那么就是到南岛就没错了。第二段的最后一个句子提到 You can take in the imposing peak's crystal clear reflection in Lake Tekapo while soaking in a natural geothermal pool. 在这里的 take in 其实就是有欣赏的意思。你可以欣赏这非常壮观的山峰，然后呢是非常清澈的 reflection， 我们用的是倒影的意思，倒影在这个 Lake Tekapo 这个地方，然后呢我们可以看到它用了一个形容词 imposing 来修饰这个山峰。Impose 本来当作动词，有把什么东西强加于人的意思，不过 imposing 当作形容词就有雄伟的意思。除了看着山峰的倒影，同时还可以 soaking in a natural geothermal pool， 你还可以呢浸泡在这个有天然的地热池当中，真的是非常的享受。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about New Zealand. And when we last left off, we were in the South Island talking about the snow-capped mountains and the beautiful blue waters of glacier-fed lakes. Azure, of course, is that beautiful blue color that looks like you're in heaven. We often talk about azure with skies, too. I used to have to sing a song, and it was azure skies of something. So that was a way for me to remember that word. We don't use it typically.
Yeah, it's not very common. Just say blue most of the time.
Or crystal blue, pretty blue, sky blue waters, yeah.
Or somebody might have baby blue eyes, for
right.
example. But in any case here, we're using this to describe the waters there, the appearance of the water. They are azure in color. Well, that's enough about the natural scenery here. We're hungry and we want to eat. So in the next paragraph, it talks about culinary delights. They are plentiful in New Zealand. Culinary has to do with cooking. Its base or its original word means kitchen, basically, in Latin. So culinary just means cuisine, gourmet food, and stuff like that. So these are delights. Delight here, of course, is being used as a noun. Something that delights you is a delight. You can have all sorts of different delights, not just food. It's just great great pleasure. Lots of visual delights, for example, if you go check out the scenery in New Zealand. But these are culinary delights, things that are pleasing that you can eat.
I think typically you guys are used to seeing delightful as an adjective, but here delight is actually a noun, and we use it like that too. The Maori use a really old cooking technique. We're describing it here as a 2,000-year-old cooking technique. So they have a really old cooking technique called hangi or hanji, we're not really sure how they say it, to steam or smoke various meats and root vegetables. A root vegetable, for example, is a carrot or a potato or a turnip. They grow under the ground, right?
Yeah.
Those are root vegetables, and they cook them underneath the ground in an earth oven. So they're actually buried beneath the ground as they're cooking.
Wow, that reminds me of an old Mexican cooking technique, although they were cooking a cow's head underground there. It was considered a delicacy. But in any case, yes, this is a cooking method that is very old, a 2,000-year-old cooking technique. And they cook things underground, various vegetables and meats and things like that. And the process takes several hours, just like it takes several hours to bake a turkey for Thanksgiving. But it's well worth the wait when you finally get the food. Oh, it's going to be oh so tasty. Now, furthermore, or in addition, also, no trip to New Zealand would be complete without a meal of roast lamb and kumara, or sweet potato, topped off with pavlova, which is a meringue-based dessert crowned with fresh fruit or berries. Okay, this is a pretty long sentence as well. So furthermore, in addition, no trip to New Zealand would be complete without 怎么样? Okay, so of course you need to have this thing, or you can say that you've never been to New Zealand before. You could probably think of something in terms of Taiwan there. No trip to Taiwan would be complete without eating chou tofu, or going to Taroko Gorge, or going to Kending. Name your place or activity there. So no trip to New Zealand would be complete without eating this meal of roast lamb and kumara. Kumara, which is sweet potato, of course, you've got that here. Fanshu, I believe, is what sweet potato is. And, of course, then you're topping it off with some kind of dessert. This is a separate dish. It's called pavlova, which I guess is some kind of dessert that has meringue in it. Meringue, I can't really explain that. It's kind of white, fluffy stuff. It's made from egg whites.
And sugar. You just beat it. You beat it with a hand mixer until it stands up. It gets stiff. And it's very pretty. It looks like clouds, right? It's very light. And then you put it in the oven and you bake the top of it. So the top of the meringue is a little crunchy. It's kind of fun.
Okay.
It's a dessert that actually originated, it's named after a ballet dancer in Russia. It's kind of weird. We don't eat this much in America. I saw it on a cooking show, so I know what it is now. But meringue is very popular in different kinds of desserts. This is just one of them that uses meringue. We have lemon meringue pie in America.
Yeah,
it's got
I like that.
Tart lemon custard sort of thing with meringue on top. That's popular. If you crown something with something else, you put it on top, because a crown is what a king or a princess or queen wears on their head. So a crown would be on top, and we're using crown as a verb. And they put beautiful fresh fruit or berries on top, which is yummy. Finally, you've got some of the world's best wines at your fingertips. Now, why are we putting an S on wine? Because you probably think, hey, but wine is 不可数的. Why are they putting an S on it? Because there are different types of wines. Just as bread, we can often say breads when we have different kinds of breads, but one loaf is just bread.
You could do that with basically any non-count noun. A box of chocolates, for example, if there's different kinds of chocolate, different kinds of fabrics. And stuff. So it's kind of tricky.
Tricky, be careful.
We're sorry about that English has to be confusing that way. But we'll get rid of this little problem if you guys get rid of all those 20,000 characters.
Or the tones, the shengjiao, which are hard for us.
Or the counters and stuff like that. Yeah, each language is difficult.
Liangzi is hard too.
Yeah, indeed. So in case this sounds pretty good, here it's a dessert. And finally, with some of the world's best wines, of course, you can indulge in a glass. Indulge in just means to enjoy something, usually that that you're not supposed to. Fingertips, it's like right there, really convenient. And you could have a glass of wine or two. And remember, wine is usually non-count, but if you talk about different kinds, you can use the countable form. I didn't know New Zealand was famous for its wine. I thought Australia was, or South Africa,
I haven't heard of
or
either
Chile.
of these.
But hey, I bet they've got some really tasty wine down there in Kiwiland.
Well, it's awfully green, so I can imagine they get plenty of water, which is what grapes need, right? So with all this and more to see and do, hey, we recommend you start planning a trip of a lifetime. This could be the trip of a lifetime if you really have a great time. There's no better time to take a trip to New Zealand than today.
And especially now because it's December, it's cold here, but it's nice and warm down there.
Yeah, it's a southern hemisphere, so they have a different season. We are going to take a few more minutes to listen to our Chinese teacher, and then we'll sign off.
接着我们要介绍的是纽西兰的饮食。第二个句子提到 The Maori use a 2,000-year-old cooking technique called hangi to steam or smoke various meats and root vegetables while they are in an earth oven beneath the ground. 我们要首先看到毛利人使用的一种烹饪技巧叫做 hangi， 而它呢是2,000-year-old 已经有2000年的历史了，它用来蒸，那么呢或者是 smoke 熏呢这些 various meats and root vegetables 来针对像是肉类或者是根茎类的蔬菜。While they are in， 这里的 they 当然指的是前面的肉类跟蔬菜呢，就是用这种天然泥土的炉灶来蒸煮或者是熏制而成。有没有看到 an earth oven 是一种泥土的炉灶？接着再来看到这一段中间还提到 Furthermore, no trip to New Zealand would be complete without a meal of roast lamb and kumara or sweet potato. 主要我们要介绍的是 no 或者是 not 或者是 never 在句子里面搭配 without 就是解释成为如果怎么样的话必定怎么样。这一句告诉我们，如果你到纽西兰没有品尝到一餐烤羔羊，或者吃到这个叫做 kumara 的东西，那么就不算完整了。这里呢，我们要注意它的句型用法。再举一个例子I never go to London without visiting the British Museum 就是代表着呢，我去到伦敦一定会去参观大英博物馆。说了这么多，在这一段的最后一句的后半句提到 Be sure to indulge in a glass or even two 在这里的 glass 指的是喝酒的意思 Indulge in 则是有沉迷或者是纵情享乐的意思。OK， 以上就是今天的课文讲解，谢谢收听。
That is it for today's lesson. If you decide to go to New Zealand on our recommendation, we hope you have a wonderful trip. From all of us here at English Digest, I'm Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.